In a secret laboratory, a young girl wakes up terrified, trapped inside a glass prison while scientists surround her. Above her in a secured room, is head of the research institute Xavier Fitch along with 2 guards. The girl, Syl, watches in terror as 2 masked men holding canisters of cyanide approach her cell. She looks to Xavier pleadingly, however he simply says "I'm sorry" before ordering the gas to flood her cell. Xavier is heartbroken though as he watches Syl scream in terror, but instead of dying, Syl breaks out of her cell, causing the gas to escape. She makes her way outside and jumps over the fence, running towards the forest nearby. Behind her, the army is deployed in full force, using helicopters and dogs to track her down. Syl is able to get on board a passing train, but is attacked by a crazy hobo who she folds like a lawn chair with incredible strength, then steals his clothes. The train pulls into the next station and Syl exits the train. She is hungry and heads inside a grocery store, noticing that the people are using money to get their goods. She has no money and tries lifting a few snacks, but is caught by the cashier. Syl heads back to the train after stealing a woman's bag in which she finds a portable TV. When she is bored of that, she heads to the restaurant section of the train, rips out the drawers and steals the cash, then heads to the kitchen taking anything that looks edible. After raising the entire kitchen, Syl locks herself inside a cabin, and that's not how you eat a banana, girl. A train attendant comes in to check her tickets and gives her half off, and she gets back to violating the banana. Xavier and his team are hot on her heels and locate the body of the homeless man on the train. He notes that she is too fast and needs a team of experts to track her down. Syl is having a nightmare and wakes up covered in sweat. Probably from all that pudding she has been eating, plus the rest of the kitchen inventory. She eats until she realizes that small boils begin to appear on her hand. She runs to the bathroom where her face painfully deforms and tentacles shoot out of her. The tentacles then begin pulling her up in the corner of the room. We then meet the team of experts that Xavier has gathered. Empath Dan Smithson, anthropologist Stephen Arden, biologist Dr. Laura Baker and mercenary Preston Lennox, all get to know each other but have no idea why they were gathered. Back on the train, the attendant comes back to check on Syl, but sees only trash and food covering the table and floor. She checks the bathroom, where she sees a cocoon which pulls her inside. An adult Syl then bursts from the sack. Xavier meets the team and briefs them about their mission. He explains that SETI had sent out messages into space and secretly they received a message back. The government was offered the formula for unlimited energy, along with a new sequence of DNA and how to splice it with humans. Instead of working on the energy, they chose to develop mutant embryos and were successful with one hybrid. They chose to make her female to make her more docile and controllable and kept her locked up all her life, running experiments on her. After seeing a partial transformation, they chose to exterminate her but she ended up escaping. Preston is able to deduce that Xavier wants them to hunt her down and exterminate her. Syl, now an adult, makes her way from the train dressed in the attendant's uniform, seeing soldiers and agents searching for her before heading out onto the street. Xavier then flies the team to the latest crime scene to see the female attendant in the corner and an open cocoon. Deducing that she may be an adult now, they update their search team and plan to capture her in the city. Syl heads into a bridal store and buys an actual wedding dress, and notices that the cashier is pregnant. She heads outside and notices a few pregnant ladies and women with small babies and begins to get baby fever. She books herself into a motel and begins to watch some demonetizing activities on the television. After booking the team into a hotel, Xavier gathers them at a nearby research facility to recreate Syl but without the human part of her, so they can study the resulting creature. However, during the procedure, the equipment malfunctions, so Laura and Preston decide to suit up and enter the restricted area to replace the bad part. They fix it but Xavier realizes that the mutation has begun and orders them to get out of there. But Laura drops the bolt to the containment chamber as the creature begins to mutate and grow in front their eyes. Xavier has locked them inside, not taking the chance of allowing the now snarling creature to escape the room. Preston tries breaking out while the others yell at Xavier to let them out. Xavier decides to burn the creature instead, but it has grown too big and begins to crawl around the room. Preston breaks a piece of pipe and stabs the creature, thinking it is dead. It begins snarling and growing again, but this time Dan lets them out before they torch the entire room. Syl changes into some normal clothes and heads to the front desk to ask about a good place to find a man. She is directed to the club where she gets in ahead of a line of people. She sees a woman getting attention and follows her back to the bathroom. As the woman sits, Syl pierces her back, killing her. Xavier and the team track Syl to the motel where they see her on the security tapes. The man at the desk then tells them that he directed her to the club. Inside, Syl is in heat and takes off her top, finding herself a man. Xavier and the team show up at the club and see the dead woman but are too late as Syl and her new man have driven away. He takes her back to his massive house, showing her around and is about to get busy, but Syl detects that he is a diabetic and refuses him. He tries to force her to give up the cheeks, and they begin to kiss until a tentacle bursts through his head. Preston has managed to track Sil to the house while she is having a shower and breaks inside. He sees the man's body and hears the shower running and checks the bathroom, but it is empty. The team gather at the house, where they deduce that Sil is trying to mate, which could possibly wipe out humans, and decide that she must be stopped. Sil is having a strange dream and wakes up on a beach inside the man's car. She drives until she is out of gas and makes the rest of her way on foot, scanning the area for any men. Out of nowhere a car slams into her, sending her flying. Sil is taken to the hospital where the doctor wants to x-ray her broken shoulder, but it begins to heal right in front of him. Sil leaves and runs into a man who helped her at the accident scene named John, and asks him to bring her home. Xavier and his team get the call about the stolen BMW and show up at the scene of the accident. There, they learn that she was taken to the hospital and show up there, hearing the doctor's story about her healing ability and the man whom she left with. John takes her back to his apartment and they get in the pool and Sil immediately jumps on him, kissing him. John is a bit taken back as she tries to take off his swim shorts and wonders why he won't take free cheeks. Preston and Laura turn up at the house and Sil senses them. John hears them at the door but Sil grabs him, telling him that she wants a baby but then holds him underwater. She transforms into a tentacled alien creature, then begins to assault the poor man underwater while Preston and Laura sneak around looking for them. They get to the pool, but they are too late, as John has already expired. They head out back into a thick forest, searching for any sign of her, but unbeknownst to them, Sil watches them from a distance. Preston is close to catching her but gives up when a squirrel frightens Laura. Sil makes her way to a parking lot in the nude and breaks into a woman's car, begging for help. Later, she turns up back at the house in the woman's clothes and car and sees the team. She reads Xavier's lips to figure out that they plan to stake out the club. As Preston and Laura head back to their hotel, Sil follows closely behind them, making her way inside. Sil begins to have dreams about Preston and wakes up with a captured woman in bed beside her. She uses a clipper to remove her thumb, which quickly grows back, then removes the woman's thumb as well, which she throws into the trash. Sil then begins to plan. She heads to a secluded spot where she sees a high voltage sign and also steals gas from a car. The team are at the club looking for Sil, when Dan heads outside. He begins to look around until he comes face to face with Sil. He tries to alert the others, but she runs away, jumping into a car where she has the same woman hostage. Sil leads the team on a high-speed chase which involves helicopters chasing after her. Inside the car, the gagged woman screams as gas splashes all over her. Sil then turns the car off-road but jumps out before the car crashes into the high-voltage sign, bursting into flames. To secure the kill, the helicopters fire missiles at the burning car. After securing the scene, they see the severed thumb and think that the job is complete. Xavier congratulates them on a job well done, but Dan is skeptical about the entire situation. We then see Sil inside a room dyeing and cutting her hair. The team gathers at the club for celebratory drinks and Preston and Laura break off for a dance. He spots who he thinks is Sil but turns out to be somebody else. He tells Laura that he does not believe that she would be killed that easily. Meanwhile, Xavier observes him from across the room. Laura heads to the restroom and fails to notice that the woman that she is speaking to is actually Sil. Laura heads to bed and Preston decides to head up and join her, and also fails to notice the woman riding the elevator with him is Sil. Preston notices her perfume but still heads to Laura thinking nothing of it. He heads inside and they get ready to smash, while Sil listens with jealousy. Sil sees the housekeeping woman come by and steals her key, getting access to the next door room so she can be a creep as Laura and Preston get naughty. Downstairs, Stephen tries to talk to two ladies but realizing that they have boyfriends, he heads back to his room. He is surprised to see Sil inside his room and she immediately begins to come onto him, taking off her clothes. She pushes him onto the bed and he asks her about protection, but I think you would need a gun for this one. Dan is also in his room when he begins to get visions of Sil and realizes that she is in Stephen's room. He heads to Preston's room and tells him that he thinks Sil is in the next room and Preston leaves to get dressed. Meanwhile, Stephen has completed his mission. Sil then begins to tell him that she feels the baby growing but Stephen laughs in disbelief until he feels her stomach and she attacks him. Preston breaks into the room but Sil escapes. They all run to the parking lot and arm themselves with flamethrowers and guns before tracking Sil to the hotel's basement, where they realize that Sil has made her way to the sewers. The team decide to split up, with Preston and Laura taking one route and Xavier running off alone. Sil then grabs Xavier, pulling him underwater, causing Preston and Laura to come running back. The three then stick together, hunting for Sil. Meanwhile she watches them from above. Dan then senses her but cannot see her until she dives underwater. Sil tries to lose them but Dan is able to sense her every step of the way. Meanwhile Sil is in pain as she begins to give birth. The three walk until they come upon a large cave. In the back of the cave a small boy attacks a rat and eats it. Dan climbs up to get a better look and sees the small boy but it attacks him, causing him to fall. The boy then transforms into his alien form and attacks Dan, who attacks it with the flamethrower before falling off a ledge. Hearing the screams, Preston comes to help, And Sil grabs him with her tongue, but he is able to cut himself free. Sil comes at him again, but a few shots cause her to fall into the fire below, burning and screaming in pain. They rush to help Dan, but Sil grabs him, trying to pull him down. Preston grabs his gun and blows her head off, causing her to fall into the fire dead. Tired and battered, the trio leave the cave. Meanwhile inside, a rat grabs one of Sil's tentacles to chew on, which causes it to mutate. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.